He has had people come into his office and say blah, 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 and given them therapy, and then he's had a certain situation where all the buildup of their release of emotions have followed him out to a restaurant, and then when he sat in a restaurant, he's had all these emotions that were given off, this energy given off by the other person, and it caused people in the restaurant to get really restless and anxious because they felt all this stuff coming off him. But that he's a present guy, but he was just overwhelmed by this one person who he was sort of helping, and then they let go of all their emotional crap and felt better. And then he actually had it, you know, the energy in the room, and he carried it out. Energy that you carry, or if you're really unhappy inside, you will trigger unhappiness in other people when you walk around, and they will, or if you're really angry, you'll trigger anger in other people, and they'll attack you, or they'll start coming up and saying negative things to you, or they'll just treat you with rubbish.
I'm not sure that's therapy. So, I mean, this is a...
Well, okay, well, we define therapy then. I define therapy as anybody who's helping anybody in a
maybe one way
objective sense.
Defining therapy is constructing a self, and one way of defining spirituality is losing a self. And there's one school of thought that says first you have to construct the self to lose the self. And if you lose the self before you've constructed the self, you're in trouble. And that's, sorry, you follow me?
Yeah.
And that's where mixing them up can be, I'm just curious.
I went to my mom sent me to a retreat once. I live in a very chaotic environment. I'm hoping this is what you mean. And she sent me to a retreat, and they were able to remove all this stuff, all my defensive walls, I guess, including everything else. And then I went back to this chaotic society or household that I was living in, and it was just horrible. And I had no defense. So is that kind of what you mean? Yeah. I learned at a very young age that that's bad.
So
it was a bad way to do it.
Right. You learned that. What about Tole? What does he have to say about that?
I don't know if he has addressed that particular issue.
Right.
I haven't actually heard him speak about that.
I think he would say just be present. Maintaining presence and see what comes up in the present moment. Of you being open.
That takes a degree of sort of control, doesn't it? Being present in itself.
It's hard, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this is the whole thing about, you know, you lose yourself if you're totally present.
But you don't lose yourself. You find yourself.
But we're still okay. You need that everyday self, don't you? Because that's efficient. That helps you get through the world.
Yeah.
You can't completely lose that.
It's impossible to lose it. I mean, that's your conditioning, and you can't just wipe that out. And that's the definition of the mind, the mental structures that you use to function in society.
What if those mental structures are a little shaky, and this is where the danger. I mean, I'm being a bit of a devil's advocate here.
That's okay.
Yeah. You know what? Because that is the danger, isn't it? It's something we speak of as spiritual practice. You have people who are vulnerable. They engage in spiritual practice, they have these amazing, powerful experiences, and they don't know what to do with them. They're just lost. Or they don't know how to build on them. They don't know how to... I mean, I'm just curious what Tole has to... How does he address that particular... His pain body stuff sounds great to me, but...
I don't think that the people who were doing the energy block removal on the retreat that I went to were doing anything like actually, whatever Tole speaks about. I noticed myself that when I was listening to Eckhart Tolle and following what he did and he suggested, I became a naturally calmer person. I naturally didn't want to kill the cockroach anymore. I naturally had sensitivity. Just compassion started coming out of me naturally. I didn't have to work at it. It just became part of me very slowly. And the more I listen to it, the more this happens. Until I listen to it now that I need to move on to some new material and progress. But I haven't found the new material yet, so I'm just re-listening to this. But I think that there's a natural compassion, and I think that he was speaking of, he said that if becoming present and becoming truly in touch with your inner nature made you lose awareness and made you vulnerable or whatnot to society, it wouldn't be worth having. It wouldn't be worth having true awareness if it made you weak. It actually makes you stronger in every sense. First of all,
So it's developmental, isn't it? In a way.
I don't think it's developmental. I think it's finding an original state, which is not really moving forwards or backwards.
That's right.
It's maybe finding depth rather.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be.
But then you find that depth and you construct, you manifest that depth in new ways, don't you? I'm not trying to attack it here.
No,
I mean, you yourself said it's a process that's changed you a lot. So
A process that what?
has changed you a lot. I think you said earlier
Yeah.
on. So it's a developmental thing also, isn't it? It can be both. It can be both, no?
I hesitate to call it developmental. I think that's one of the major differences between someone like Eckhart Tolle and Deepak Chopra. They're sort of they're sending you towards a goal. Like one thing I dislike about Deepak Chopra is the fact that he seems to say, do these things and you'll be rich and successful, and I find that very off-putting.
Yeah, I find it's do it yourself.
Yeah,
It's not.
Whereas for Eckhart Tolle, the whole point is finding your true self, which is presence,
Yeah.
being,
Yeah.
and that's it. That's the goal.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's all there is.
And there's no impact upon who you are.
No.
There is, isn't there?
There is. Yeah.
No, because you're using your mind as a tool.
There is. I don't see why both
Once,
can't happen, actually.
okay, let's assume that you've become enlightened. You still use your mind as a tool. You're still peripherally aware of everything that's around you, but you're not swept up by everything. Yeah, you're not bothered as much by what goes on around you. You're calm. When people are attacking you, you state, no, I don't like that. But you don't do it with any emotion or any kind of, I guess, fear. There's no ego investment. You can just tell them what you think is inappropriate.
We're starting to run out of time. If there's anyone that wants to ask a final question, or if we have a couple questions that we can keep to under a minute, does anyone want to ask a question? If not, I just have one last one, and then we've got to wrap up. You mentioned, did you read Bob Monroe's book? Robert
Yes.
Monroe's book?
I did.
He started the Monroe Institute. I've been studying one of the guys that helped him set up the institute. So not only just listening to him, I got to buy his book, but not only just listening to him. So he talks about, I've been studying quantum and multi-universes, and a quantum computer is a representation of the brain. He bases a lot of these ideas on quantum physics, and quantum basically says that a thing only exists when there is an observer. If there is no observer, then things themselves only exist in a superposition of states. It could be in one place or another place, or at one speed or another speed, or one direction or another direction. Does Eckhart Tolle or any of these people talk about this kind of level?
Not Eckhart Tolle, but Neil John Walsh with Conversations with God deals with time quite a bit, saying that time is all happening at once. Eckhart Tolle mentions that. Actually, he does. But he doesn't go into the depth that Neil John Walsh goes into. In Book 3 of Conversations with God, he deals a lot with time and talking about time and how time travel works and how it is. It's fascinating. I'd like to have addressed his work more, but I don't have time to do all the authors at once.
Next time.
Are there any final questions before we move out of here? Then we got 3 minutes to go. Or we have 5. 3 minutes?
Yeah, 3 minutes.
Yeah. So we can continue this. We can continue this outside. But let's thank our speaker and thank each other.